How can slowing down help you cultivate more self-love? I'm super excited to tackle this subject today with my special guest. Hi, I'm Anna Maria Pardo here at Move and Bloom, the safe space where together we can grow possibilities. And to help us grow possibilities, we've got Trista Price of Healing Sacred Space here in Bloomington, Indiana. Trista's an intuitive guide, a Reiki Master, Breathwork Facilitator, and energy teacher. Trista helps connect people to their own energy so they can experience more meaningful and abundant lives. Make sure you watch all the way to the end because Trista is going to show us a special practice today during the interview to help us further connect with our lovely spirits. So without further ado, welcome, Trista. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited. Thanks for having me on this snowy day. So I don't know where everybody's going to be watching, but it's snowy here. So
it's snowy. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And tell us, what's your story?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So my story, I go, how far back do you want to go?
Well, let's stick with this life.
I think that sounds good. All right. I like that. So this lifetime, let's see. Let's just talk about my healing journey. I'm really awful with time. So I'm going to say about close to 10 years ago, I was in a space that was, I was stricken with some grief is the best way to say it. And it brought me to my knees. It was a grief that I'd never quite experienced before. And that's really how I started walking into this path that I'm walking on now as an intuitive guide and healer and helper, and to help people empower them. My story really, it was quite lovely. It was one of those things I think that I unconsciously, I really wasn't thinking about it. I was just reaching out to the universe going, I need some help. And as I was doing this, luckily, people started showing up in my life. And at that point, I was living in Colorado, and I ran into this wonderful friend, and she's like, you need to go see this person. She's going to help you. And I was like, I'll take any help I can get right now, because I just felt stuck, so stuck. And this wonderful, beautiful lady turned out to be my mentor. She's a Reiki Master, an intuitive guide, all the things that you started out telling what I do now. You know, we teach what we know. And that's really where it started. It started at this space of me coming to a place of healing and understanding my grief and understanding myself. And just like anything else, once you tackle one thing, you realize there's like 10 other things you want to work on. And so it was just this really deep, and I won't sugarcoat it, it was hard. It was a hard process of taking the time to look at myself, to understand myself a little bit better, and understand, again, the grief that I was going through and what that meant for me. Excuse me. And while I was doing that, just like what we do, we peel back the layers of ourselves. And as I healed through one thing, I recognized all of these gifts that I had honestly pushed under the rug for my whole life. I've always known I've been sensitive. I've always known I've been intuitive. I've always known, oh, I can see things or feel things or know things, but it was scary. You know, it was a little scary in the beginning of my life. And so I had this beautiful teacher to help me walk through it. And honestly, I believe it was probably about within 6 months of seeing her, she walked me into learning Reiki and guiding me into understanding what these, lack of a better word, people will associate knowing this word, psychic abilities were, and to understand like, oh, it's not scary if I can feel energies. It's okay if I can, you know, hear angels or guides, or it really started to feel so familiar and so lovely. And I'll tell you, go ahead. Yeah.
I'd love to ask you a question here.
Sure, do.
So you said something that perked my ears up. You said it was scary to realize that there was all this underneath the surface. And since for today's show, Valentine's Day, we're talking about self-love. I'm wondering what your experience was like, sort of as you learned to be with yourself, how that affected your ability to love yourself.
Yes. It was a slow process.
Yes.
It was a lot of days of really being gentle with myself and reflecting on the things that I was learning. It really was. It was about patience with myself. I think that's a really huge word that it kept coming to me. It kept coming to me. Oh my gosh, I need to be more patient with myself. And honestly, you know, when you're underneath a lot of heartache and grief and trauma, you don't realize it until you start coming out of it where you were. And as I kept, you know, slowly crawling out of the hole, so to speak, and coming out of that space, I really found myself starting to do things that made myself feel joyful and made myself feel happy. And I'm like, oh, I like to, you know, I taught myself how to meditate. And again, that's one of those things where it's like, oh, you don't learn to do that overnight. That takes practice. And I started to enjoy it. And sitting in those moments of just sweet surrender and stillness and letting myself take even just 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day to be still and quiet with myself, which I'd never really done before. You know, there's so much chaos going on around us constantly, whether around us or in our crazy chatter brain, that's how I started to learn to love myself, was to be quiet and to listen to what I needed.
Yeah. And I love this. Can we sit with this for just a minute?
Yeah, we can.
Because there's something very powerful about the pause.
Yeah.
And we're taking a pause here. And what you're describing was a pause, a moment in your life where you hit pause.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I absolutely can. It's funny because when I talk about it, I put myself right back there, and, you know, in hindsight, we see it so differently. But when we're in it again, it's like, okay, I need to take more of these times. I recognize for each time I took the pause, my day would be better. For each time I took extra long pauses, my week would be better. And then suddenly I remember thinking a few months into this practice, I was changing and I was happier. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even believe it. I was like, I really thought I was happy. And then suddenly I'm taking all this time to get to know me, because I hadn't done that. Again, I feel like so often we're just parallel, like we just have blinders on, and we just go, 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 go. And for me, that was my experience. What's the next thing? What do I need to do? How do I need to do that? Because again, it was scary to think about having to sit with myself and what I needed to overcome and heal. And part of that recognition now, again, hindsight, is recognizing I get to choose what I do. I get to choose what defines me. I get to choose to create these moments of, again, I call it the great pause. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to pause for a minute, because there's no pressure. The only pressure really is what we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it's an everyday walk. Even though I'm, 9-10 years into it, I still have to practice it every day.
Of course. And you said another very powerful thing. And the reason some of the things you say light up for me is because I'm coming from neuro movement, but the essentials behind what we do are very similar to a lot of different mindful practices. And you're talking about am I comfortable, or is this just familiar? Right? So we can do things and they can feel so familiar that we're not even aware that we're uncomfortable. I call it the I've grown out of my tennis shoes, but I don't know my toes are all jammed up effect, right?
Yes.
And it's not until you stop and try on a different pair of shoes that you realize like, oh, those are tight.
Yeah. Yep.
but it's that we need practice in choosing sometimes, right? Because sometimes the fear is not only what we might see. The fear can also be, how do I choose?
Yeah.
So perhaps this will bring something up for you, but in our practice, we just do a lot of really little tiny choices around one thing. We'll just do little tiny variations and be like, what's that like? Okay, it's all really low stakes to tune into our feeling, our felt sense of ourselves. We don't think it. It's, what did my feeling sense tell me about that choice? Was it painful or did I like it? Right? And then that moves us forward. And I know you talk a lot about intuition, so I don't know how this dovetails with your work, but I bet you're already like popcorning ideas.
Absolutely. Everything you're saying makes so much sense. But I tell you, one of the biggest things that I've learned, honestly, just within the last few years, even though I've been doing this for a long time, is about the need to be in our body, not in our brain, but the need to actually be in our body. Because just like what you said, we have to feel. And I think so often we don't let ourselves feel. It's more of a bad or good, but there's so many things in between that. It's like, allow yourself to be vulnerable. And if there was anything that I've learned myself and that I really encourage other people to feel, is vulnerable. And vulnerable is not a bad word. Vulnerable means you let yourself feel all the feelings. And I love what you're saying, because it's an intuition of, okay, let me just feel what's going on in here. Let me use my body as a compass and let me ask what's best for me in my next move. And just like anything, tiny little steps can make a huge difference in your life. You know, that's something when I started this work, I remember having conversation with Spirit going, if you want me to do this, if you want me to say yes to what I really feel my soul's purpose is here, I'm going to make some rules here. And I said, okay, I need to have practical and easy things to share with people, because we don't want to do complicated things. That's just not necessarily in our human nature. We want it to be fast results. We want it to be quick. We want it to be easy, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like,
true.
I'm always still talking to Spirit going, okay, I'm going to work with this person. So you need to give me practical things to tell them. You need to give me practical tools, where 5 minutes a day or 2 minutes or a 30-second breath, what can shift? Just a quick little story. I have a dear friend, and she just made the best analogy. She said, if you look up at the stars and you really think you're just going to go right to this one star, and suddenly you get there, but you accidentally just moved just a half a millimeter to the right, you can end up in a completely different galaxy, right? And it's the same thing about, I loved it. So she said it, I was like, yes, this is perfect, because it's true. Tiniest little movement, the tiniest little step forward can change your whole life, right? So
completely changes your trajectory.
It really does. And so that's what I like to sit with in my own life, going, okay, I might feel stuck. I might feel like I can't move my feet. I can't move forward. But I know if I just do one breath, or if I just do one meditation, or if I just come outside my comfort zone just a little bit, let me see where that takes me. How can I say yes?
That's really interesting, and particularly because we all want to do what's simple and easy, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Nope.
So I always have to fight in my work, sort of like, the cultural narrative that says, don't take the easy way out,
Yep.
don't be a quitter, don't, no pain, no gain.
Oh.
And so how do you help people navigate those narratives in their head when their body is telling them, no, hey, this is really more comfortable, or no, this trajectory makes more sense to me right now? How do you help people with that?
Let's see, how do I want to answer that? Let me take a pause for a moment here.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, the first thing I feel pulled to say is we're not here to suffer.
Right.
I really, really believe that. Is there suffering? Yes, absolutely. But I don't believe that we're here to suffer. And so I think if we can change that narrative to really go, I am worthy and I deserve to find peace and ease in my life. If you keep saying that and you keep expecting it, then I really believe that there is a way to understand, because I'm with you, that no pain, no gain, like that is just it's not even for the birds. It's not even for anybody. Like, I'm just like, it's just not even, it doesn't even make any sense to me. Why would you just keep pushing through if it's uncomfortable? To me, that's your intuition going, this is not the right way. You listen to your body, listen to your intuition, your gut. It's telling you there's a better way for you. And so part of really what I would tell, I ask people this, I bet 100 times a day, how does that feel in your body? Yeah. What emotion, what word, what sensation do you have? Do you feel pulled to actually keep going with this and saying yes? Or is your heart going, oh no, I don't want to do that? And then I ask, is that fear? Or is that because you're really not supposed to do that? There's so many clues our body gives us that are connected to our spirit and our intuition, because our brain gets in the way a lot of times. Oh,
doesn't it? Oh my goodness.
I love our ego brain, but boy, does it trip us up often.
Great for math problems, not so great for life decisions.
That's right. Perfect analogy. Yes.
Does our brain also get in our way when we're thinking of loving ourselves?
Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Where do I start? Do we have a few hours?
We have time for the Cliff Notes.
I love it. Cliff Notes it is. Yes, it does. Because, okay. So when we start thinking, about loving ourselves, a lot of times we think about all the things that people have said to us about us not being lovable, or you're this, or how could you be that? And all the stories that people put up on us. And then we think about all the things that we've told ourselves over the years. It's like, oh, how can I be this? And how can I be that? And so our brain just churns and churns and churns, and just this intense chattering. And in the meantime, the rest of us going, well, of course I'm lovable. My body needs love. My spirit needs love. There's so many ways that are trying to knock at your door and going, yes, don't listen to that. Don't listen to that crazy chatter mind that's going on. And so, yes, our mind absolutely plays so many tricks on us when we think about loving ourselves. I have so many beautiful people that come and go, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel worthy of love. I don't feel worthy of deserving anything good in my life. So then we start peeling back the layers. And there's a beautiful little technique that I learned from, it's a woman I've never met, but I just really connect with her, and her name is Sonia Choquette. And she does this amazing, simple little practice it's actually fun too. And it's talking about connecting with your spirit. Your spirit is not your chatter brain. It's the part of us that's pure and loving, and it's always been with us, even outside of our body. And it knows exactly what is good for us. Without we don't have to peel back the layers of the spirit. It just knows what we need. And so we do this practice where it involves breath. So we slow our body down. So we take a nice slow breath in. And then you pierce your lips as if you were going to blow out a birthday candle. And you just deflate. And you do that a few times. You can do it as many times as you want. You did that for 5 minutes, you'd be the most relaxed you've ever been. So you do this breath, and that's it. That's the first part of it. It's just about slowing down. And then the next one, you take another breath, but you imagine you're going to breathe deep from your feet, like your feet had lungs. So you breathe and you take this nice inhale, and then you sigh and you smile. And then you do it again. You take this nice breath in, and then you sigh and smile. And when you do that, suddenly your whole body opens up. Your belly opens up, your rib cage opens up. This layers of walls and hard layers that are around our heart start to pull back. And I love it. She says this funny little thing that when we smile, we pull back the curtains of our heart. And that's true, because the more we come into the body, the more we do this breath, the more we slow down, we're getting out of this crazy chatter mind. All of a sudden you're like, it's a little bit quieter up there. Okay. And you keep going and you breathe and you do all of this. And it's about bringing us to the present. And then you think about your spirit. You know, our body wants to relax. Our body wants to not be in that fight or flight and constant state of not having an awareness of what we need. And that's part of loving ourselves. Ask ourselves, what do we need? What does my body need right now? What does my spirit need right now? Well, who is my spirit? And then we start kind of diving a little deeper into that. And we have to experience our spirit. It's outside of the ego. It's outside of the chatter. And the spirit is the part of us that helps us breathe. It lets our heart beat. It lets our body move. It helps me to animate and do everything that is who I am. So we start further into this and we go, what is my spirit love? So you can do this. I really encourage you to do this out loud, because, you know, you get to really feel the vibration. So if you feel silly, you can do it in your car so no one can hear you, you know, speak out loud, or whenever you're by yourself, or do it with a friend. It's really fun.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, Anna. All right, we're going to do it. So I'm going to start, and we're just going to say, I'm just going to go through some things that my spirit loves. And when I'm doing it, again, I've done all the breath, I'm in my body, I'm feeling calm and relaxed. And I go, my spirit loves to connect with the spirit realm. My spirit loves to connect with you. My spirit loves to help empower people to feel like they can move forward in their life. My spirit loves to walk in nature. My spirit loves music. My spirit loves a good cup of hot coffee. My spirit loves to bake and to cook, and I love to share it with my friends and family. And my spirit loves my dogs, and my spirit loves my husband, and I love the snow. And I just keep talking. And as I do it, you can see me getting more animated.
Woo!
Right? I'm like, let's party, right? Because I'm connecting to those parts of who I am, not the parts that bog me down day after day of this to-do list and this stuff I feel like I have to do, and the pain and no gain feelings that I just feel like I have to keep going. And so tell me, what does your spirit love?
Oh my gosh. So my spirit loves to celebrate with people in community, all the beauty in the world, whether that's nature, music, or just, you know, watching people, what a miracle people are. And to look into their eyes and realize that they were a baby once. Or that they're going to grow old if they're lucky, and all the people they'll meet and all the things they'll do and the hardships they'll encounter and the agency they'll find in their lives and the helpers they'll find in their lives. And just, it's cause for celebration, right? Let's all dance together and enjoy it. And then throw some glitter on it.
Glitter, yes, fairy dust, glitter and bubbles. Now tell me, how does that feel in your heart when you talk about
amazing?
I love it, right?
Amazing. Yes.
So part of loving ourselves is remembering who we are. What's underneath all of those layers that have been in your part of your life? It's not to dismiss. We're not dismissing any parts of us, but we're digging down and remembering our joy. Even if it's difficult at first, because I've worked with people and they're like, I don't know what I love. And that's okay. Think of one thing. That's why I always throw in the hot cup of coffee, because most people are like, oh, they're like, oh yeah, I love a hot cup of coffee, right? And I'm like, okay, how does that make you feel? All right, let's dig a little deeper. Do you have pets? What's your family like? What do you love? Do you love to walk outside? You just start to build. And I've done this practice for myself, and suddenly I'll be saying things like, oh, I forgot I loved that. Oh my gosh, I forgot. And so part of loving ourselves is to let all these things that we love into our lives as a daily practice.
Oh, Trista,
Right?
this is so important. And I want to pause and acknowledge the importance of this practice, because this is something I see a lot of when people come in with long-standing pain, like physical chronic pain, right? Everything hurts. And we're trying to find through movement ways to relieve pain. But if everything hurts, what do? You have to resource comfort. You have to find that one part of yourself that doesn't hurt. Sometimes it's your hair.
Sometimes
right? Sometimes there's no nerve endings in the hair. Sometimes it's your hair. And you just have to start where you feel good. And it can be really hard to find it when all you've experienced for so long is pain. It's sort of like whites out the picture, right? Like you can't see the rest of the picture. So I really want to highlight what you said and acknowledge for people that this is not just for spirit. This is not just for body. This is for our whole self. If we want to come home to ourselves, we need to resource that comfort, resource that joy.
Yeah.
Thank you for this
yourself
practice.
where you are, right?
Yes.
Meet yourself where you are. Yeah. Thank you. I love what you said. I say that so many times. Come back home to yourself. Where have you been? We spread ourselves so thin to so many places. Call yourself back home. Oh, it almost brings me to tears to think about it, because I'm like, oh, there's so much heartache. There's so much heartache. And if you just 30 seconds, breathe with yourself. Just 30 seconds. That's all I ask. Hand on the heart, hand on the belly. Just feel this life is magic. Even in the hardest days, it's magic. And so it's just remembering that. It's just remembering it. There's always, I do little channeled writings often, and I heard the most beautiful message yesterday, and it said, even in the darkest hours, there will always be a spark of light that will be your North Star. And they said, take time to look up to find your star. Just take time. And as soon as I wrote it, I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't have come up with that myself. It's your North. Everybody has a North Star. Everybody has a spark of light. Right? So loving yourself, whether it's Valentine's Day, whether it's Groundhog Day, whether it's St. Patty's Day, I don't care what day it is. It takes time, just like everything else.
It takes time.
Patient and gracious and nurturing and loving in whatever capacity you can be with yourself. And every little step will be progress.
And I wonder if you do this, because so far we're like running on parallel tracks. Sometimes I tell people to pretend. Like, I'm like, so did that feel better? And they're like, I don't know. I said, can you say it might feel better? And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
I might love myself more.
Yeah.
I might.
Yeah. I love it. I say to use your imagination. But just use your imagination, because think about it. Our imagination is connected to our intuition, which is connected to energy, which is connected to everything outside of us. If you can imagine it, you can create it. I really believe that. I think about all the crazy things that have been created in our world. It all started from imagination. So exactly what you say is like, let me fake it. Let me imagine it. Let me think it, even if it's not true, because that's my word this year that keeps coming up is creational energy. Creational energy. And that's what it is. We're creating something that may not exist 2 seconds ago, but as soon as I think it, I'm creating it.
you're creating new connections in the brain.
That's
If
right.
I say, I don't love myself yet,
Yep.
I'm creating the possibility that I will, and my brain is starting to lay down tracks for this love thing.
Mm.
We don't know what this love thing is, but we're getting ready for it.
That's
We're
right.
getting ready.
Yeah.
And the next time there's another little sprout, and just the connections start growing and building on each other. And it's slow, it's subtle,
Yeah.
but it's real.
Yeah. And one day you'll wake up and go, oh, it worked. I've changed. I've shifted. I don't know what the heck happened, but here I am, happier.
Yeah.
You know, I love the line, be open to the possibility that anything is possible. And again, it's like, well, you know, you and I have talked about intention too. What if I just brought the intention of just saying words that make me feel open?
Mhm.
Even if that's all I'm doing, I'm open to the possibility that anything is possible. And I'll tell people, I'm like, okay, don't listen, just let me listen to you. You listen to me. I want you to say it. And I want you to tell me, what does that feel like when you say that? Because
Mhm.
energy is so subtle. And I'm sure that this is part of what you work with too. It's like shifting it just the tiniest bit can make a world of difference. The moment we can shift out of that heavy, bogged down feeling into something a little bit brighter, just a tiny bit lighter. Maybe I'm going to say a word that opens my heart, or maybe I'm just going to sit up straight with my shoulders out, proud and open. It's amazing how much it can make you. Again, you're in your body, you're in your spirit, and you're just open to the possibility that something great might happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I'm curious, and you might not remember, but maybe you do. When was that moment in your story? So 10 years ago, you were grieving.
Yeah.
You came upon these practices. You planted the seeds. You watered the garden. You practiced and practiced. When was that moment when you looked in the mirror and went, whoa, that's not old Trista anymore?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I remember a couple different times. So I would say maybe about 6 months, a year into healing. I remember taking a walk with my husband, and we're talking about things, and I'm, you know, sharing. Luckily, I was able to, you know, share every walk with my husband, and so we're talking, and I think I was just kind of processing out loud, like, should I keep doing this? Or, you know, kind of what are you noticing in me? And I was like, I think I'm getting happier. And I remember him going, you need to keep going because you're becoming happier. Things are changing for you. So, you know, he encouraged me to keep, you know, doing what I was doing. And then I remember just little blips here and there. And I'll tell you, probably about a year after I started working with my mentor is when I had been practicing Reiki already, and I owned another business in Colorado at that time. So I had the pleasure of having a little extra space in my space, and I just knew right away I'm going to start seeing people. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I was like, I just know this is what I'm supposed to do. And so as I was working with others, that's when I started to really recognize this shift in me. Again, I had about a 20-minute drive to work every day. And I noticed that I'm going to bring back the word patient, because I was so much more patient in the car on my drive. I remember I had a beautiful drive. When I drove in, the mountains were right in front of me. So I was like, it was almost like I started to just notice things. It was almost like my head had been down for 35 years, 30, I don't even know, however long that's been. And all of a sudden, I could see clouds. I could see hawks. I could see sunflowers. It was like I woke up. I woke up from this haze that I'd been in for a very long time. And that's part of connecting with yourself, is when you notice you're connected to everything. And I still have these big aha moments. I still will kind of come down, you know, my studio is in my home.
Yeah.
And I'll come down to work and I'll just sit here and go, holy moly, where did this happen? How did this happen? How did I get here?
Yeah.
So we always have these amazing moments in our lives if we make a commitment to ourselves.
Mhm.
You know, it doesn't take away from the commitments we've made to our families or to our friends or to our community or to the planet and to the world. It's all connected. You know, the more we heal ourselves, the happier we are. And then it spreads out into our family, into our friends, into our community, and to the planet. That saying, heal yourself, heal the world, it is smack on correct.
Yeah. And what you describe, my brain just lit up because we can entrain with each other, right? And you know this, but the more ordered our brains are, which is what mindfulness and connection and intention can do for us, the more well-ordered our brain is, the more we can bring other brains into that sense of peace and order with us. So the more awake, aware, connected, and intentional we are, the more the people around us start to shift. And I know the data is preliminary, but even the plants around us start to shift. Life starts to shift around us.
Yeah.
And so if nothing else, I want to tell people when I see them, like, do you want to be the one shifting life, or do you want life to shift you?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So that just is so true what you said, that suddenly you're up and you can see and you feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to tell you the plant thing, I'm gonna, even though the data's not in, I never used to be able to grow anything. And now I have plants everywhere and they grow. I'm living proof. I used to kill cactuses. So I'm like, now I'm looking around going, I've got plants. I can grow things now. So I'm going to tell you that data is proven just by me.
Oh, absolutely. It's just, you know how data is. There is data out there that, you know, plants are attuned to their caretakers.
I absolutely agree. And so is everything in your surroundings, you know? I love that. That everything is truly connected. That's something, especially when I have group meditations or group teachings or something, I always say it's about pointing out the power of that group energy of like, do you know what we just did today? We just raised the vibration of everything. I'm not just yourself. I'm not just you. I'm not just the group. I think about the land and I think about the surrounding and the planet. It's like we brought that to the world. You get because you said yes to yourself.
There you go.
Right? So I get excited about it.
Well, I'm excited about it. You mentioned groups. Tell us what projects you have going on.
Perfect. So a few different things. So I'm a Reiki teacher as well. So I have some Reiki trainings coming up on February 26th. I actually have a couple spots. So everything I do is in small groups. I love intimacy. So my groups are usually no bigger than 8 people. And so I have a Reiki 1 coming up on February 26th. I have a Reiki 2 coming up on March 26th. I've also created a women's circle. It's a women's empowerment circle. And we meet once a month here at Sacred Space. I also do occasionally, you'll see them on my website, healingsacredspace.com. I'll do Zoom meditations as well, which is really fun because then people from all over the world can show up and we can meditate and share space and light and love together.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And when we're done talking, you'll drop your websites and stuff in the comments below. Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. So we've talked so much. I can feel how my energy is already so much higher. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we sign off?
Oh, goodness. Let's see. You know, I think my final piece would be to just take, I'm going to repeat something that we've said about committing a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes a day to whatever brings you joy, whatever you can do to feel peace and love within yourself. That's something I would just encourage you to do more and more of. So that would be my little piece of wisdom that has sure carried me, and I've seen it in so many friends and clients and just people all across everywhere. It's like just these tiny little shifts, tiny little things to remember that you're so loved, you're so amazing, you're part of this big, beautiful world, and you wouldn't be here if you weren't supposed to be. And so I love everybody. So I always tell everybody I love them. So I love you. I love everybody that's watching. And I just get to, I trip up on my words because I get so excited about it. I'm like, there really is so many beautiful things about life. And so I hope everybody discovers even just a tiny piece of it in their Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that expansive love with us today. I'm sending my heart's light to yours. And to everyone who may be listening today, that they might shine that light back on themselves and come home to themselves.
I love it. Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a blast, and I'm sure our listeners are going to so enjoy this interview. Bye for now.